with our second kill, 2 girls, 1 barbecue.
And welcome to our newest episode of the Minimal Effort Good Time Horror Show. I'm Halen.
I am Scott.
And tonight we will be covering Sleepaway Camp 2.
Unhappy Campers.
For 1987. How you feel about this one, buddy?
I've got so much to say about this movie. It's not like the last couple movies that we reviewed where there was a lot to the plot. This is very much a point A to point B to point C film, but it has so much heart. Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, was released in 1988, written by Fritz Gordon and Robert Hiltzik. Hope I didn't say that wrong, Robert. Sorry about that. Directed by Michael A. Simpson. And it is starring, and I will say, when I bought this DVD, it said, starring Pamela, yes, his sister, Springsteen, Renee Estevez, Tony Higgins. And it has got a runtime of a quick hour and 20 minutes.
The written credit for Hiltzik, that's the original director and writer of Sleepaway Camp. They make sure to add in there because it's a continuation of his story.
So that was nice of them that they decided to pop that in there and give him some credit there. This is a first for our show here of jumping into reviewing a movie that is actually a sequel. This movie is an island all unto itself. In comparison to the famous Sleepaway Camp, the original one, Sleepaway Camp 2, the sequel, it's its own beast. It's a wild ride. So IMDb synopsis on this one is Angela, supposedly reformed and living under an assumed surname, is working at a summer camp. However, when the campers start misbehaving, she soon reverts to her old ways. The great part is that within the first 5 minutes of this movie, with just completely natural and quick dialogue of a bunch of campers around a campfire telling ghost stories, you get the entire synopsis of the first film just thrown right at you.
For our unlucky, unhappy listeners who've not seen the original Sleepaway Camp, many murders happen mysteriously at a summer camp in early 80s upstate New York. And we eventually find out that they are committed by the prepubescent Angela, who in the past, she was born as Peter, but her sister and their father both get murdered in a boating accident.
Oh, man.
So the aunt forces Peter to live as Angela in a very, by today's standards, hard to deal with situation because it deals with a lot of trans issues. This is not...
It's problematic. Yeah.
This is one of those sloppy things because it's like Peter was brain damaged and didn't really remember he was Peter, so the identity of Angela was built.
Because Auntie goes, I already have a son. What do I need with that? Yes, I always wanted a daughter. So she...
and that's the queer fear reveal that, oh no, Angela has a penis.
Yeah.
She's been the one killing people. But the thing of it is I love Angela, like the character in the first movie, because Angela's basically the Hulk. Angela is the id of a hurt child who, when things are pushed upon her, she doesn't internalize them. She doesn't go and, turn to her self-hate on herself, cause self-destructive behavior. She grabs a knife and stabs them.
And the first, 3 or 4 kills in that first film are yeah, somebody should have done that to these jerks a long time ago. Especially the child molesting cook, which was I can't believe his colleagues were just yeah, man, whatever. Yeah, haha, you made jokes.
Well, he was already making jokes about sexually assaulting these little 10 to 14-year-olds.
He deserved every last bit of it. And you can argue through the entire film that everybody pretty much deserved it. And in this film, there's actually one of the things that one of the people says right before they're killed is, wait, but I didn't do anything. But what were your initial thoughts going into this one, Halen? What did you think?
Angela was an anti-hero in the first one, so I was like, where does the story go? The only character in the first movie that I really regret that she kills is the boy who she was kind of involved with, but he did kiss that other girl earlier in the film.
He sure did, and she was a jerk. Oh, man.
By kid logic, the murderous urge just somehow got her to rip his head off.
And stand there screaming with her wiener hanging out. Just,
why does she croak? Why does she like that's not coming out of a child?
This photo of on my phone saved that I send to Halen, that's like just Angela's face just going over and over and over
again. If they existed at the time, that would have been memed the hell to death.
Oh, absolutely. But here we are. Angela, she was what, 14 in the first film, was it?
That's probably right. It's in that ballpark.
So I'm going to say that this is roughly about a decade later. She says she has been Angela. What was her fake name that she took?
Johnson.
I've been Angela Johnson for 4 years. So she obviously had, was in psychiatric electroshock torture hospitals for a good decade between the end of the last movie and this one. There's not going to be a much to talking all the way through a lot of the points of this film, other than the fact that in the first 5 minutes you get your recap, you get a killing right off of the bat, and then a girl gets cracked in the head because she talks a bunch of smack and says mean stuff, so she gets hit in the head with a log and has her tongue cut out, and you find out and you see it's Angela right there, day one, second. Boom.
Great kill on that, though. That log hit felt realistic.
The sound, whoever was the sound engineer too, that thud was great.
That tongue cutout scene was actually cut out for the British release, because I believe in the British release, these were known as Nightmare Camp 2 and 3.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and they cut out the tongue cutting scene, and then they cut out the last part of Allie's death.
Oh, which is the best part. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But you could argue that this might be, during the sunset of the great slashers. There's still some good ones coming out now. Thanks, Adam Green, who put out another Hatchet movie or, something like that. But
yeah, well, I mean, we're talking about the end of the great boom.
Yeah, the golden age.
Those 10 years of like 77 or 79 to like 87, 89. I mean, those 10 years are we're going to sell this to teenage kids and make a buttload of money.
And they sure did. Oh, Lord. But we start out with this nice setup in a summer camp, which I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, that sounds like Friday the 13th. Yes, but no, it's definitely not. No supernatural anything in this. You just got this psychotic woman who is killing kids. There's no guesswork in this. Like the entire first movie was guesswork as to who was going on, because all the kills in the first film were all first person. In this, you got this great setup, and then this boom, boom, boom. All right, we're in the camp. Well, here we are, and the movie starts. I would say within the first 10 to 15 minutes, you've got every single character archetype completely spelled out for you right in front of your face, and it works 1, 2, 3, 4, which is probably why you were saying that it felt like it was just all rehash.
For the films really being made only like 4 years apart, you go from something being shot in a real summer camp in upstate New York to being shot in this second and third films are shot in Waco, Georgia on the Alabama line. One of the most notable things I remember is like you hear these people in the first movie and they sound like New Yorkers, various types, whether being from down near the city or being upstate. There are variations, but there is New York accents.
They were all primarily from the area where the movie was filmed too. All the extras and a lot of the people. Only a few of them actually flew in from elsewhere.
You see a ton of Italian people.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the different American ethnicities that made up the area. Here, everyone looks like they fell off the back of some place in Southern California.
Casting car.
All like late 80s mall hair.
Oh, so wonderful.
Frizz to death.
Feathered mullets.
And the vocal fry. When everyone talks like this, where everything's the question.
At the end.
This is we're not in New York anymore with these movies.
No, absolutely not.
It's just a striking thing with me. I'm like, these kids don't sound like they're from anywhere near.
I would assume it would have to be close, so it's probably still New York because
it'd have to be because Sean's dad.
My dad's a cop. I couldn't go that year because we didn't have any money.
Because his mom left him for a foot doctor in California.
super fleshed out characters. You've got your girl of loose morals, I guess you would say. You got your stoner sisters. You got the good guy that's trying to impress, the hot chick with all the stuff that he can do and all the instruments he plays and all the sports he's in. You got the best friends that are the two little kids that are buddies, and then you got a horny couple that are off banging everywhere, and you've got your final girl pretty fast, all lined up, boom, 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 boom. You get, of course, the poor stoner sisters, the shot sisters. They're referred to in funny, 80s, obvious late 80s gags as the shit sisters because their name sounds apparently like that. Your typical just like empty skulled stoners that were just drinking that big old bottle of Mad Dog too. Did you see that?
Oh God, yeah.
If you look in the distant background, you see the shit sisters there laughing and drinking. And if you look way out in the background, you can see the blue of Angela's shirt hiding behind a tree. Great shot, because you just notice Angela just peek out from behind a tree and then back. First of all, I've got to go back on old TC. 100% personification of every jockish camp counselor from the 80s, with his beautiful blonde mullet and his big, stocky, stumbly personality that loves Angela, but just can't get her to notice him.
But Angela's a little too, like, perky and gung-ho for him.
And he does the thing where he's like, she walks off and he, spit all that game at her. And he's like, what is it? And he like sniffs both of his armpits and he's like, I don't know what it was. I don't know.
Every single character in this movie, except for Angela, is named to 80s actors, mostly in the Brat Pack. TC is Tom Cruise. That's Mr. Risky Business. That's him being out there being Mr. Suave. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just went right over. He invites her to go swimming, and she talks about how much she's I don't like swimming, which is a good callback to the first film, about how much she hated the water. Obviously, her brother and father died in it. Angela finds the sisters. One of them's passed out on a log because she smoked and drank too much, so she's knocked out. The other girl is on the ground rolling around with this dude. Angela comes in there, smacks the guy on like the back of the head, and says something like, "Get out of here, you bozo!" And then he runs off. And then girl that was rolling around with him like looks up. She's like, "What the what?" And she gets knocked out. And then it fades back to a scene later on where we first see the front of this cabin, this mysterious cabin. And there's this like big barbecue pit type thing in front of it. And you got this charred up black skeleton of this like completely just cooked. And you realize as she wakes up that that's obviously the other sister, the one that was passed out, has been cooked. She's then lit on fire and burned to death while tied up in the barbecue, which Angela says, what is she?
Yeah, well, she condemns the elder sister, taking her younger sister astray and leading her into a life of whoredom.
Oh yeah, you not only destroyed your life, but you destroyed hers, and then lights are on fire. I'm thinking too of the time of wow, this definitely is the 80s, because the boy's just being a boy and he just gets popped on the back of the head and told to run away. I mean, he gets his later, obviously, but it's like this moment of what she keeps calling fornication in the woods, and how the boy just gets popped and told to run away, and then the two girls literally get killed for it. Like, and a pretty violent, painful way of being lit on fire while you're tied up, burning to death. It's a pretty violent death, and she let them burn long enough to where there were nothing but charred skeletons afterwards, too. But I thought that it was pretty ironic that was so clear to me watching it this time. It's like, well, why did you treat the guy like he was just being a guy, and you literally murder the girls?
That's kind of the moral code that Angela was brought up with. It's a very patriarchal thing that women are the temptresses and women are lead men astray.
Sirens calling a man astray.
I like that joke that Angela makes to Molly, who is our heroine, if we have one in this.
Our final girl, yeah.
Because she says that she is scared of losing Sean's interest to Allie because she's so much more experienced. And Angela just pops back and goes, "Well, that probably means she has a disease or two."
And then she gives her this nice little bit of advice where she goes, my auntie always said, and I was like, oh God. Angela's aunt in that first movie is one of the creepiest characters in horror films. She's so creepy. She's got like that just plastic, pretty 1950s look, And she's just always very happy. She said, keep your morals strong and you'll never go wrong.
Keep your morals strong and you'll never go wrong. I texted that to you as I was watching this thing. I was like, oh, that got me. Our B story, if you will, or our A story, depending whichever you consider the murders are, is Molly, our good girl, is interested in Sean, the cop's son. And it's kind of a little bit of a back and forth of, oh, we're in our teens and I really like this guy and I think he likes me. I want us to be together and be together forever. Very, very cute little sweet story in there as everyone's dying around them.
Gives her a little peck on the cheek during the panty raid. Everybody gets in trouble, and he sasses Angela a little bit, and he pecks her on the cheek as he runs out. And it's so cute, and she's so happy because
as you said, Angela gives boys the thing because she says even though he talks back a little bit, he's a good boy.
Even though he talks back some, he's still a good. Yeah, that's that patriarchy again. Damn it.
Well, because Angela, this is gung ho, happy. She plays the guitar and sings the camp songs.
Super charming.
She's the camp counselor of the week.
Oh man,
Uncle John, our camp owner, talks to her because that's one of the things early on is when the first girl Phoebe is killed by Angela, she tells Uncle John that she had to send her home for doing things with boys in the woods. What she was doing in the woods was telling spooky stories, but to Uncle John, she kind of implies,
giving us our backstory, breaking the fourth wall for us.
Was kind of implying that they were doing something bad, and she covers it saying, "Hey, I had to send her home," and he replies back, "Oh, they said every good kid in the state of New York came to this camp. Now I can barely keep it full with all the whatever backtalkers and
fornicating drunk children." And
because Uncle John, I'll talk about him later, but that actor is the most accomplished actor in this entire thing, and he's got an entire history.
We get another girl that is complaining and needs to be sent home again, and it had one of the greatest, ridiculous Bugs Bunny pulling a weapon out from behind her back kills. Do you think this is the part where it turned the corner for you when you realized that it wasn't just a ripoff of everything?
That is when I realized it goes full satire pastiche. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Get it right at this point where she's like, just say you're sorry and you can come back to camp. We're going to be doing the outdoors sleep tomorrow. Just all you got to do is say you're sorry and everything will be fine. And she looks at Angela and goes, apologize to you? I'd rather die. And it was like, bitch, say no more.
This character's named Mare, based on the actress Mare Willingham, because she keeps calling her Mary. It's like, Mary, it'll be okay. Are you sure you really want to do this?
Reaches in the back seat and pulls out a ridiculous sized power drill. And she just, and the girl's just screaming and she's right into what I assume in her head, which was a Slumber Party Massacre flashback for me there with the whole drill kill thing, which is pretty. While these are all very inventive and very ridiculous kills, there's not any of them that you haven't. Well, there's one that you've never seen before, but
I don't know. All of them have variations. I bet you there's an Italian giallo film that did like every one of these at one time or another.
But I was really impressed again this whole time watching it analytically, because every time I've watched this movie, it's been for fun. And this time I was watching it to remember things to be able to talk about. Obviously, I rewatched it maybe about an hour before we started recording. I realized this time how every single counselor and every single camper seemed like they spent their entire lives like watching movies about summer camps, and all they wanted to do while they were there was like emulate that particular character as much as they could, like completely to the fullest. Like every counselor was like, hey, why don't you make your macaroni plate? You're gonna love this. I want to go home. I hate it here. This place sucks. And
the one girl who says I hate it here, the other one who actually gets her mom to come pick her up is the one who gets away.
Swain survives perfectly fine.
I want to call my mom. I want to go home.
Well, we get to a more counselor-esque type moment here where Angela meets. I lost the final girl's name again.
Molly Nagel.
Molly is wandering through the woods feeling bad for herself, obviously, probably because the boy doesn't like her or whatever. And she comes across Angela sitting on the steps of an old cabin singing to herself. She's like, oh, I followed you up here. That's why Angela's surprised. And I feel like they leaned really hard on this cabin, like having some kind of significance. Like maybe it was one of the cabins from the first movie, but there wasn't really any importance to any of those cabins. It wasn't like, Jason's, house in the woods with his mother's head or anything. And she is like, Angela's surprisingly, like when she's caring and when she is being good to Molly here, she is like actually pretty dang good at what she's doing. She's not a bad counselor.
I think she thinks of herself as like the white knight here to protect and make sure Molly stays the right course through all this stuff. She's like, I believe in you, Molly.
You can just be yourself and be a good girl, and Sean will like you. And then you get we're moving along here with a little bit of the whole camera winking slasher movie references that were made really hardcore with, what was it, Judd and
Anthony, named after Judd Nelson or Anthony of Alcohol.
Yeah, Breakfast Club fame. If you guys aren't old enough to remember all this, where they put on a Freddy and Jason costume respectively to go out in the woods and scare Angela because it's their sleeping outside night.
They're doing the whole traditional things you would do at Halloween, where you take all your kids and you cover their eyes and put their hands in Jello and like, oh, this is monster guts or like peeled grapes. Oh, it's monster eyeballs. And Angela's there, and then Angela grabs her hand and puts them in the box and said, "These are dead teenager brains." And someone goes, "Well, what are those?" And she goes, "Dead teenager brains." How will our happy campers fare and what will be left of them? Find out next time on the Minimal Effort Good Time Horror Show.